Good morning, everyone. I'm Travis Strawn, and I will briefly be discussing the diversity history of Clemson before Harvey Grant. So, I dug through the archives, and it showed that two African American men who tried to get into Clemson before Harvey Grant. These two students were named Edward W. Bricey and Spencer Bricey. The students were qualified to attend Clemson University. They mostly had A's and B's on the transcript. Little did they know that they were not getting into Clemson, even though the President Cooley, who was president at the time, led them on to believe that they were getting a fair admission process. Unfortunately, the students' applications were thrown out because of their race. And keep this in mind, this was after Brown versus Education, and this was the court case which the Supreme Court ruled that segregation in schools were unconstitutional. Moving on swiftly, there are multiple letters between the Dean of Student Affairs and an attorney discussing African students and making sure that they could not get in trouble for denying the students, and they were trying to keep the situation under control and from reaching the public news. President Cooley even stated that it was the state's responsibility and not Clemson's responsibility to provide equal and comparable educational opportunities. There's even a letter from a senator that told President Cooley that he was glad that he did not see Gant's admission on their admission list.
Good day, everyone. I'm Devontae Capers. I'll be going further into the history of Clemson's ethnic diversity post Harvey Gant's time, leading to present day. Since Harvey Gant attended Clemson in 1963, which was the first year of Clemson's integration, there was no diversity per se. So, after doing a little research by journeying through the archives, I found statistics dating all the way back to the year of 1992, which had reasonable facts giving me statistics on how many students were attending Clemson at that time, more diverse than it was in 1963. The number of students in 1992 was around 17,666. The current total is 24,708. That's a major difference of 7,042 students. Harvey Gant's influence in 1963 allowed for these outcomes to pass. There are those who honor that influence, but there are also others who disagree with that idea. In 2016, a rather unfortunate predicament occurred. There was a situation commonly known as Clemson's banana incident, where two students hung bananas from a pole next to a banner honoring African Americans. The students claimed it wasn't racially motivated, but the situation was so dreadful that it led a march from Fort Hill to Sykes Hall with a mob of more than 100 members of the Black Student Union. This event lasted for exactly 9 days and ended after Clemson announced a series of 8 changes to create a more diverse and inclusive climate. These changes included doubling the minority facility by 2025. It's an estimated guess, so it's not confirmed yet. And setting goals by the following August of 2016 to increase minority enrollment and requiring all employees to participate in diversity training.
The year was 1954, when the now famous Brown versus Board of Education court case decided that separate was not equal. Although the Supreme Court ruled in favor of desegregation, South Carolina would still pay out-of-state tuition so African Americans could stay out of their top schools, Clemson and USC. It was 9 years later that Clemson College, the first school to desegregate in South Carolina, accepted their first African American student, Harvey Gant. Clemson at the time tried and failed to keep Gant and other students out using excuses of them not completing enough credits to be applicable. Gant sued Clemson for these allegations while the current president, Robert C. Edwards, was working behind the scenes trying to convince others that Gant is a valuable student worth having at the college. Gant fought the system all the way to the Supreme Court, where he was finally admitted to his school. 9 months later, his soon-to-be wife, Lucinda Brawley, was the first African-American woman to be accepted. They started the diversity inclusion in Clemson and the state of South Carolina. Today, there is a center dedicated to the Gants and the celebration of all cultures. Because of new diversity rates, Clemson is now home to multiple different inclusion groups, such as the Black Student Union, Council of Diversity Affairs, Latinos Unidos, in other words, Latins United, and the International Student Association. All of these groups have grown in numbers, and the development among students here at Clemson, with some making impacts for the betterment of the university. These groups not only provided a comfort for minority students, but also allows all students to learn about cultures they may have never been exposed to. As new changes come, that includes race, sexual orientation, and more, we must remember all those who have paved the way. It was not just against, but every student who has pushed the system before anyone knew. All those who are able to help others understand that with their determination and hard work, their accomplishments can reach far beyond their initial purpose.
Hello, it's me again. And this time I'll briefly be discussing about all these, well, I guess the side effects of these diversity programs. Because all these diversity programs and outreach programs are great for the diversity of Clemson, but we must keep in mind that we cannot exclude other races, even if they are not a minority. That would be racism, the very thing that we as a society are trying to move past. Therefore, we must be careful with these programs and not indirectly implement racism back into our society.